there was a lot of outrage over administration trying to put one over on people. Yeah. And it was coming at the same time as the women's movement was blossoming and the people of color movements, and we had just been fighting against the Vietnam War, so people were, as Megan had said, people were more likely to want to do something about it. And so the list of people who were involved in this was just really huge, and it was just all over campus. One of my sources of pride was that I knew in every building where the bulletin boards were. And myself and a woman called Lois, who worked in health sciences, we could plaster the whole university in like 45 minutes. We just knew where to go and walk fast. And everything we did was either made on an alcohol duplicator, which made purple letters, or else it was on a mimeograph and stencil. And it's amazing that these things one gets so proficient at and then is no use anymore. Yeah. But there was the editor of the Daily was very friendly toward us and really cared about the issues, so we had something in every daily paper, and got support from students and from faculty, and had a big meeting with the Higher Education Personnel Board where they told us no. And so we walked out and called the strike and formed a union called United Workers Union Independent. And the number of people who actually came out on strike was small, like a few dozen. But a number of people didn't go to work. Most of the janitorial staff didn't go to work at all. And for either 1 or 2 weeks.
2 weeks, I think.
2 weeks. And then we had led a lot of press. I mean, this was like unprecedented. The University of Washington, oh my God.
First strike ever. Really.
And so then we decided we'd go back to work. We got them to change it. They actually, I shouldn't be surprised, but they made concessions. Yeah. And we decided to go back to work, and we all went back to work, except that 2 of the women in food service were told that their hours had been cut as penalty for having done this. Yeah. So we asked the administration to fix it.
They were black women, weren't they?
They were black women. They were older women. They were had been in the jobs for a really long time, yeah. And they, as soon as they reported in, because we talked to everybody going back to work, we asked the administration to fix it, and they wouldn't. And so we all went over to the president's office, whose name was Cartwright, and sat in his office for a few days until we got what we wanted. And I found a newspaper article from a few weeks later, when there was or some months later, when there was a new president whose name was Hogness. Oh. And one of his first edicts was that there would be no more sit-ins on campus. The main issue that we were fighting for about equalizing pay for people who do work that requires similar skills, then got taken up and became a national issue.
Yeah. I wasn't working on campus at the time, but I was in Radical Women, so I was supporting the strike, and I would go early in the morning before I had to be at work and go picket. And I remember picketing in the rain with some of these same
right.
black women who were, there was a reason why management came down on them, not just because they were at lower level jobs, but because they were really strong and really dynamic.
And they kept us.
They kept it going.
Yeah. It was very interesting, the things you learned. There were, among the people who were picketing, this city is fairly segregated, and it was even more so then, I think. And for one of the women who just died, actually, Josie Anthony, told me that she learned a lot from this, because she learned that white radicals get picked on and harassed by the system the same way as she had always experienced growing up as a black woman. And some of the people who were out on strike with us were gay, and it was the first time some of us, myself included, you know, see women kiss each other or men. So, but we were working together on the same thing for the same thing, and so it really made a bond that for most of us has existed for 35 years. When we went to Josie's funeral, we were invited by her daughter, who had been a little kid out when we were doing this, but remembered it very fondly and strongly. So it was a big moment in our lives, I think. And then that activism then spilled over into the organizing that you did at City Light.
Right.
And then then we were involved with the Greyhound strike and the Patco strike, which were huge. Greyhound was a national strike, and Patco was during the Reagan administration in the 80s when the air traffic controllers went on strike.
Yeah.
And they figured that nobody could do their jobs, and they were going to go on strike, and they were going to set a lot of precedents. And President Reagan called out the Air Force and the Army and busted the union. Yeah. And that was one instance when we really wanted the whole labor movement just to shut down.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't. We just, and that set labor back in this country for 20 years, at least, or 25 years,
Well, now we're down to the unionization rates that they had, when the Great Depression hit, interestingly enough.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Right, the U District has been very central to the whole thing. I'm thinking back to the older days when we were at Freeway Hall, and for one thing, the Vietnam anti-war movement was very much centered around the UW, and the demonstrations, the movement was very centered in the University District.
The Ave is a place where the university, I think because of the university, the Ave has always had a reputation as a place where people could hang out.
Yeah.
And one of the people who works in our office used to be what she called an Ave rat, which were kids who had left home or just would hang out there. And it's always a place for ideas and original ideas and art. When I was first here, people used to hang out, still at the Blue Moon Tavern, where famous authors had been, and there was recently a fight about trying to keep that as a tavern and not let them tear that down. So I think that the history of Ave is very rich, and it continues to this time.
Yeah.
And you always find something neat there. I'm very conscious of how different I look now from when I used to, hang out. And so I was walking down the Ave the other day, and I smelled some dope. And I took a deep lungful, and this kid says, "Do you want a toke, sir?"
That's so cute.
It was. I just said, "Well, I can't. I'm going to work, but thank you very much." So anyway, I thought that was sort of neat, and a contrast to people who offer me a seat on the bus now occasionally.
Yeah,
It says, "You went, oh, great."